Hi, and welcome to Dramatic Knits. My name is Steve, also known as Dramatic Knits.
And I'm Callie, also known as Calsters.
And today is Saturday, March 26th, 2016. That's right, folks. It is Saturday, not Sunday. We're a day early, but not $1 short. I don't know. I tried. If you're a returning viewer, you know how bad of a sense of humor I have and how most of my jokes fail. But if you're a new viewer, I'm so funny. Stay tuned. Just wait. Anyway. Hi, Callie.
Hello, Steve. This is the knitting podcast.
It is. It's not a stand-up comedy show. Anyway, we're a bit cheeky today. I am, I guess. Callie insisted on Starbucks while we were out, so, I couldn't deny her, so then I got a drink, and now I'm all caffeinated. Which is good, because we were both about to fall asleep earlier this afternoon.
Like when you go into places, I feel like it was perfect nap setting. Like, right temperature, enough sunlight.
We were at open knitting, so, and then you're in big comfy chairs, and you're knitting, and then you're like...
I'm not gonna lie, I almost ducked out and slept on that couch. But then I was like, maybe not.
We will apologize. The weather is fairly decent here. It's cooler, but nice, so we do have the windows open. And if you're a longtime viewer, in central Illinois, when the weather gets nice, there are motorcycles everywhere. So sorry if you have earbuds in. It can't be helped. It is also midday, so you've got the nice halo behind Callie's head. But we do the best that we can do here, so... let's do a quick week in review. For myself, I've been on spring break, which has been nice. But this is the first year in 7 years of teaching that this felt like an awful, awful teaser to summer break. It's like, oh, you're starting summer break. No, just kidding. You've got to go back for another 2 months. So, meh. But I know it's coming. Summer is coming. Which is funny, because... what's that TV show? Game of Thrones, and they always have winter is coming, yet it's not, because it's going to be premiering here in about a week, I think. So really the logo should be summer is coming, right? Anyway. So what did I do this week? A lot of dyeing, and a lot of hermit things. I don't like to leave the house, but I did have to go to a doctor's appointment on Wednesday. Kaylee and I went to knit night on Tuesday as well, which was good, and, Andy and I went to see, Deadpool on Thursday. Andy wanted a date night, so we went out to see a movie and went to Best Buy and had some Indian food, and it was delish, and, and that's been about it, and we went to open knitting today, so... that's been about my week. Nothing terribly exciting. But it's been nice and relaxing. And I get to go back to work on Monday. So, meh.
I've been gone for last week. I was gone last week when Steve recorded. So, just to get caught up, that week was really hit and miss at work because we were only allowed to work a set number of hours because we work for the state, and overtime is at a high premium. And so, doing a lot of flexing in my schedule, but we ended up going to, we took our teens onto a road trip. And so we stopped in Lake Williamson. Some of you may be familiar with it if you're from the Midwest. A lot of church retreats or small groups tend to go down there because it's close to St. Louis, but yet still pretty out there, if you will. It's a wonderful facility. I mean, the kids had a lot of fun, and that was really what's important. So from there, we got there Friday night. We had dinner there, which was excellent. Their food was really good. Easy killer.
I just jabbed my knitting needle right in between my fingers. That is there's some tender flesh in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to disrupt.
It's okay.
Just mutilating myself over here.
So after we had dinner, we did a training session with them called Colors, and it's kind of like a Myers-Briggs study, but at a different level. So that was pretty fun with the kids. They got to understand how they think, how they work in groups, how they're different from each other, but yet everybody adds value to a team or to life in general. So that was really exciting. And then they had this huge recreation center, and so they had volleyball, which is like a combination of volleyball meets racquetball. It's slightly dangerous depending on your anger level. Just going to put that out there. They had basketball, they had air hockey, they had pool, real pool, ping pong, carpet ball, which is kind of like bocce ball. So that was kind of fun. And they had this really fantastic game. So it's 9 square. So if you're familiar with that, like 4 square, but it was 9. And instead of like with a basketball, there's it's set up like in a tic-tac-toe thing, grid, and you pass a ball, in between the different openings. And so when you either let it drop or you don't get it over, then you're out. So it's a really fast-paced game, and like between myself and my coworkers, we each played like an hour of it. So, and then my other coworker and I played volleyball with the kids, and their anger level was a little too much. So I was like, I'm backing out of here.
Teenage angst.
Yeah. But that was really fun, and then we went back, stayed the night there, and then in the morning we had breakfast, and the kids did a high ropes course. I chose not to do it because I was the driver of the bus, and I felt that if I fell, it would not be good, because I'm the only one licensed to drive the bus in the group. So, fun. And then we went to St. Louis, and we went to the City Museum, which was fabulous. If you are near St. Louis or going there for vacation or anything, highly, highly recommend it. There's tons of slides. I mean, there's something for everybody there. There are some small spaces that may be hard to maneuver depending on your ability level or comfort of certain closed areas. So I will say that, just as a warning. But
if you think you can't fit, don't push yourself. I learned when I went before, and it was just Andy and his dad and myself. We were 3 adults who went and had a really good time, and we've been pressuring his brother and sister-in-law to bring our niece and nephew down, and then we're going to go to St. Louis. I think this summer is the first time in like 5 years that they're going to bring the kids, and we're going to go down to St. Louis for a weekend. We're so excited to take them to the City Museum. So
that's awesome. We went as a whole staff because the kids, they had to be in partners, and so like for the first hour that we were there, we were making sure that they were still in partners. It was crowded, and making sure that, like, they're teenagers. And we had one girl that was a little bit too all into this one other guy, and he was trying to walk away from it. And so we were just like, if I catch them making out, like, whatever, but I am a chaperone and we're going to have to deal with that. And I was like, I don't want to have this conversation. So we made sure where we knew those two were at. So anyways, we all, after we made sure the kids were okay and still in the museum and not, getting into white vans with free candy on the side, we all went down this one slide, because I was like, we got to do it. And so we went down, and it leads down into the basement, and there's 2 ways out. There's one way where you have to, like, flatten yourself out and, like, kind of, like, lean back and crawl out. Not playing that game, because I am not that thin. I know looks can be deceiving, but I am not that thin. So the other option was you had to crawl underneath the floor, not like the floor, but like the floor of the story above it, and it's tight. It's a little tight. And I, at one point, because I was leading this, I was like, oh god, I'm gonna get stuck, and this is gonna be this is gonna be an intervention. But we made it out, and I quickly learned that one of my other coworkers is very claustrophobic and was having a mild panic attack, one person behind me, and I was like, oh. But some of the stuff you don't know where it leads out of.
See, I was going to go down that side, but I backed out because I was like, I don't know where this goes to, how you get out. What they're like, it just takes you down the 4 stories of the building, and I was like, I was in line. I said no. I did the big carnival one.
Oh yeah.
Hurt my tailbone.
I didn't do that one. I didn't do a lot of slides because I was kind of keeping an eye on that. couple.
What's probably the best thing of this excursion is they actually have a bus that's off the building.
Oh, yeah.
That half of leans off the building, and I'm scared of heights, but it's, it's on there.
Oh, yeah.
And so you actually can get on the bus from the back end and walk out over the building, which is pretty cool. So.
And what's really neat about the City Museum is that everything is reclaimed. So, like, it's reclaimed airplanes, reclaimed bus parts, like, reclaimed, and everything is welded together. And so, I know we've spent a lot of time talking about this, or at least I have, but it is so worth going to. And we had my coworker that's claustrophobic, she also has a fear of heights, but she did the tallest slide, and she was like, I'm good. I'm totally fine. I think it helped we did the high ropes course in the morning, and she did that, so I feel like once she conquered that fear, she was just like, I'm gonna tackle it. So I thought that was really cool. As adults, sometimes it's hard to get over fears, so I thought it was really cool she was pushing herself. So that was kind of last week. This week has been kind of a blur of just working a lot and then trying to get caught up. On Monday, I had 204 emails from the week before because, like I said, we were working odd hours. And I was like, I just need to close my door. And I'm down to 25 now. So really proud of that. The 25 that I've got are, like, webinars I need to catch up on and that kind of thing. So it's not, like, crucial work. So, anywho, that's enough about my week. But it's been pretty good, so...
Well then, what's taking a bow? I have nothing. I'm super close on one thing, but knit night or open knitting ended today, and I wasn't quite there, and I didn't feel like making Callie sit around while I finished it. So
that's okay.
It'll be done next time. But. So do you have anything?
I have no finished projects, but I'm really close on 2, or at least to have a hoe and an FO.
Cool. So what's performing this week? I've got a few things on the needles. Same things as last week, but I've made significant progress because I haven't had to work this week. Well, work. Work. As Rihanna would say.
Don't even get me started on that song.
I totally used that as a class joke. During my lunch hour on that Friday before spring break, I have lunch in the middle of one class. So, like, we go to class for a half hour, we go to lunch, we come back and finish up class. And so I was getting the kids back to working. They were writing. And I said, all right, folks. So what would Rihanna say if she was your teacher? We got to work. Anyway, I'm that teacher. So the first thing for me is Midnight Ocean by Louise Zass-Bingham. I'm using Twisted Fiber Arts Large Evolution in the Aerial Base in the Gypsy colorway. I have just that much yarn left. And I'm on to the last type of pattern repeat, which I have to do 4 times. But here it is, and you can see from the Dicky-Doo down. I'm sorry if you can hear the dogs barking in the backyard. Again, windows are open. And they think the dogs that are next door are their best friends, even though all they do is bark at each other. So I added maybe, 2 inches. So not too bad, not too shabby of work. I'm just really hoping this will fit over people's shoulders. It's supposed to kind of be a ponchette type thing, so we'll see. It does stretch though with the lace, so
it's very subtle color changes.
It's so beautiful. Like I said, Twisted Fiber Arts is amazing at what they do. I mean, you're paying for your product, but I've not met anybody who can do the subtle changes like they can.
Yeah.
And I've met both owners, and one in particular we've met a couple of times, and she's like, it's a science, really it is. She's like, it literally is a science to what we do. So there's that, and that's on size 6 needles, which is 4mm. The second thing is my Periwinkle Boomerang, and I did work on this twice this week because I went to Knit Night on Tuesday and today, and I'm super close to finishing it. I'm using Barocco Boboli lace in color 4393, which is periwinkle on a size 6 US 4mm. And I did remember to move the Dicky-Doo. My yarn's all wrapped up in it. So I did a decent amount this week.
You did.
So, and I love, there's really no flashing or pooling with this.
Right. It's pretty consistent.
It is, which is really cool. So, this is as much as I have left. It is not that much.
And on the floor, it looks like a jellyfish. Or a starfish. Excuse
Yeah.
me, not a jellyfish.
So, I just need to sit down and get that done. Eventually. I won't be going to knit nights for a little while because of scheduling, and I'm going to be gone the next couple of weekends, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Remind me, don't let me forget at the end of the show to talk about that. Next thing is my Reckless Love socks out of Online Super Sock Merino color in, what's the number? 1506 on size 2 US, which is 2.75 millimeter. And, I'm working on them. They're in my lap. I work on these while I'm reskating. So, I moved the Dickie-Doo. I had just gotten past the cuff last week. And so I'm still working down the leg. I have about 15 more rounds to do before I start the slip stitch heel flap. First one's already done. So, again, I thought this was self-striping. It is the most random yarn, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But there is no rhyme or reason to the colors. None of the color repeats are the same length. You can see with the lightest colors. You know, it's interesting. And I have a lot of it, so. The last thing I'm working on is Banner Day by Megan Williams, and I did get quite a bit of work done on this as well. I'm going to be going on to the edging pretty soon. I'm using Leading Men Fiber Arch Showstopper in the Metamorphosis colorway on size 5 US, which is 3.75 millimeters. And trying to remember which way is the top. So you can see the orange Dickie-Doo right there. So there's that. And I'm thinking it will block. I think it will need to be blocked because right now it's not that big. And if you consider I'm going to do a decent more, but then there's edging, but still. It's with the garter and the skip stitch. It's very stretchy, so. That will not be a shop sample for YarnCon, but that's fine. We've got plenty of shop samples, so.
Nice.
That's it for me.
So I'm actively working on two things. The first thing is a just regular sock, a vanilla sock, and it is using Friday Studios yarn in the Hawaii colorway. And so I put it in for the heel, and now I've just got to work my way through the foot. So
you gotta work your way through the foot. She's gonna smack me the minute I hit the stop button.
Anywho, I do not like the song. I think it is complete and utter nonsense. This is my opinion.
I agree with you. I don't think anybody in their right mind can understand what she's saying, but other than work.
Sometimes when I hear it on the radio, I'm like, if that is what it takes you, like, if you can get drunk and make that song and still make an iTunes #1 hit single, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Like, I just gotta hook up with Drake and make a song and it will sell. Like, what am I doing with my life? Anyhow, so this is a new project that I'm working on. It's by Baby Cocktails, or Thea Coleman, and it is the Creme de Menthe pattern. And I'm using Cascade 220 on size, I think they're 8s. Yes, size 8 or 5.0 millimeter. So I've gotten through the first lace part, and then it goes into another stockinette, and then textured detail, and another section of stockinette, and then there's a huge section of the border is a really beautiful lace pattern. So I'm on the last stockinette before I start the lace pattern, and I'm really excited. I'm knitting this for the Super Summer Knit Together knit along, and I hope to have it done by the 31st, because that'd be real great to get extra door prize tickets. But even if not, even if I don't make it, this is a really well written pattern. Again, it's Creme de Menthe by Baby Cocktails. Highly recommend it. There's not that many that are actually knitted up. And I know someone else is doing it for the knit along, and I can see their RAV picture, but I cannot see their face or like their name. Yeah, so kudos to you for doing it because we're awesome people. So, but yeah, that's all I'm actively working on.
So what's in rehearsal? What's going to be jumping on our needles here soon? As I told you last week, I'm going to be casting on for 2 different knit-alongs. The first one is through our local yarn store, and the first one is for SSK. And the next knit-along teacher that we're going to be knitting patterns from is Mercedes Tarasovich. And I'm going to be doing Ayano, which is a 2-color shawl, and I showed you my 2 picks for that last weekend, but you'll see them maybe next time we record. I'll have started it. So cool. The second one is a knit along through our local yarn store, which is the Quaker Lines by Susan Ashcroft, and I showed you the Liberty Wool Light that I purchased last weekend for the knit along, and so I'll be casting on for that after YarnCon.
Awesome. I don't know what SSK featured designer pattern I will be doing next, but I do plan on participating because this has been a fun knit. And I just didn't have time to do the Romy Hill pattern. And I too will be participating in our local yarn stores knit along for the Quaker Lines shawl. Also, you might see some stash enhancement.
So, moving right along into behind the scenes, my spinning. I did finish some spinning this week and got a good deal of other spinning done, surprisingly. I finished my latest commission spin, which was Fiberknit Dyeworks BFL in the Candy Mountain gradient, and I spun it and Navajo plied it or chain plied it, so it's a 3-ply, to keep the colors, the progressive, together. And I got 208 yards of about a DK weight. Because it was only 3.5 ounces instead of a full 4. So it goes from the purple to the pinky red to the light pink in there, and it's super soft. So enjoyed that. That was a nice spin. I tried to get it thin, and I still got a DK weight, but you know what? People say, when you get real thin, it's hard to spin thicker. And, I'm okay with the DK worsted weights. A lot of people like to use hand spuns for cowls and hats and mittens and things. You can do that with DK worsted.
Yeah.
So, because it's not fingering, whatever. Means I can go on to something new, which I did this week. So, I used my random number generator on my stash, and it picked for me a wool pierogi bat, which Becca's stuff is utterly gorgeous. And I believe she's going to be at YarnCon as well with Jelby, and she has wonderful bats. And I had picked this one up at Stitches Midwest, I think this one was. It was about 2 ounces or 2.4 ounces, and it was in the Calavera colorway. And it was black and white with a bunch of colored Firestar in there. So I didn't spin it super thin, and I just let the black and white do what it wanted to do. And I thought about splitting the 2.4 ounces and then doing a 2-ply. But then I'm like, that's not going to be a whole lot of yardage. Now, granted, with bats and things like that, it's not as consistent as commercial top. So I'm like, well, somebody could use it to stripe in a hat or something like that. But then I was like, I'd like to get more yardage. So I still had 2 ounces of this, farm alpaca mixed with nylon, sparkly nylon that I had gotten at our Apple and Pork Festival here in town couple years ago, and I had gotten 4 ounces of it for $10. So I was like, well, I still have 2 ounces left, so I'm going to spin this up and ply it with. Now, I know it's brown and black and white, but I'm like, it's naturals with some pops of sparkle and color, so I do need to spin up the other 2, hopefully spinning out the veg matter that was in the first 2 ounces. Did have some in there, but, for $10 it was something new and supporting fiber artists that are local, so I've got that to spin up and ply it. I was really hoping to have this done by YarnCon next weekend. I don't think that's going to happen, but gotta have a goal, right?
Neat.
Any spinning?
I'm not spinning, but I'm wondering if it's Calavera, and my Spanish is a little rusty, But I wonder if it's like after the Day of the Dead.
It's Calvera.
Oh, then no.
So.
I have no idea then. My bad.
Calavera.
But I do like that colorway a lot.
Moving right along, in the scene shop, cross-stitching. Guess what? I have my first FO in cross-stitching. What? It's not an FFO, which I've now learned is a fully finished object, because I need to get a 5x7 frame. I'm not a seamstress, a sewer. I don't have a sewing machine, so there's not going to be a whole lot of fancy FFOs, you know, what people make pillows and stuff like that. Unless I give it to Callie, I'm like, make me a pillow. Because she's got a sewing machine and quilts and does all that fun stuff.
Yep.
But I picture myself framing most of my stuff, or framing them in hoops, you know. So I'm just drawing this out so I can finish this row. But I was working on the Artiste Mini in the owl, and I finished it. So here it is. It's done. You can see the little leaves. Again, it's supposed to be stitched this direction. I've learned to now take note of the direction of the fabric when you start a pattern. So it'll be fine. So they talk about washing it, and with cross-stitching, I guess you just lay it in water, like soak it like you're knitting, but then you just lay it out flat to dry because you know you're not going to block it or anything like that. I don't actually even own an iron anymore since I have a dryer with steam. So I don't own an iron for like my dress shirts. So, but I have seen like the little mini ones, and I'm like, is that a good idea? I don't know. Like the little tiny irons that you can do stuff. I don't know if that's something I need, or I just give it to Callie and be like, bring it back next week. Thanks. Love you much. So I'm super excited. I think it's adorable, and hopefully my sister will enjoy it. If not, I'm going to give everything to Callie and be like, decorate your room.
Or office.
There you go. The next thing, though, is going to go with this office, because it matches my accent wall. So the next one that I started stitching is a Dimensions kit. It's a really cheap one, though. It's a Dimensions Stitch Wits kit. And this is on 14 count Aida. And it looks like this. It says, I'd agree with you, but then we'd both be wrong. And if you know me in real life, other than the podcast, I'm somewhat snarky on the podcast, but I can be fairly snarky. Callie's queen of the snark. So we're both snarky, and I think it works. So you can see with the color scheme, goes with my accent wall, and it's framed in the hoop. It came with the hoop and everything. So I've been actually going to town on this week, and I've gotten more than halfway done with it. So I've got the start of the top row of W and the R over here, because that's the nice thing about cross stitch is I'm a super planner, so I'll be like I was doing like the E, and I was like, where do I want to go next? Well, if I go this way, I can use this much floss, and if I go this, so it's kind of fun to think that way. But this is true Aida. The first product I was showing Callie was much softer. I don't like Aida. I'm a fabric snob, and I think I will be moving on to the smaller count linen stuff, linen and cashel and what all those other fabrics are. I'll be learning about those, but it's almost like you gotta pierce through this. It is what it is. But supposedly this is super easy to just cut away and then be done and have it a finished object when you're done. So that's what I'm working on in terms of cross stitch.
I still haven't started mine. I'm not going to try to play it like I have, because that would be rude. But I just I'm just not in, like, I know I was really gung-ho when we first got started, and I'm not saying that I've lost that. I've just also not had time, so.
Though I did invited her to a couple cross-stitching Facebook groups before we hit the record button, so.
Yeah.
I said, if you ever need inspiration, I said, I just go through and scroll there before I go to bed at night and look at people's progress photos, and I'm in awe of what people can do, so.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along into In the Spotlight. What are we watching and reading? Like I said, Andy and I went to see Deadpool, thoroughly enjoyed it. We were the only two people in the movie theater. We did go to like a 4:30 matinee because we're old folk and preferred to go see our movie before dinner, on date night, rather than go to dinner and then a movie. But it worked out fine, and so we enjoyed it. It is, you want to talk about snark, it is just roll off the tongue humor, not appropriate for children in any means, but definitely had me laughing out loud several times. They do not take the movie too seriously. Ryan Reynolds' character, because this is another Marvel comic character. So it's part of the Marvel series, but it's nothing like any of the other, kid-friendly, even though they may be fighting and some gore and stuff.
It's not Captain America or Thor or
whatever. Or even Wolverine or any of that stuff. It is very rated R for a reason. But they break the fourth wall a lot. Even he makes a joke where he breaks the fourth wall and then does another flashback in which he breaks the fourth wall and makes a joke. He's like, I've broken the fourth wall in the fourth wall. That's like breaking 16 walls. And so he talks to the camera a lot, which is really funny. But if you know, Ryan Reynolds also did Green Lantern, which I guess was kind of a box office flop. And they actually make fun of that in, when he was going to become a superhero. It's like, just don't make it electric green and, like all this other stuff. And even the rolling credits in the beginning, there's no actual names. It's like, starring Heartthrob and, CGI character and all this other stuff. If you do watch Yarnivore with Sadie, you'll know that Sadie is now an American, but lived in Canada and was raised in Canada, and is from a town called Regina, which they actually mentioned Regina because of the joke Regina. It's the town that rhymes with bun. So that just tells you a little bit of the somewhat clean humor in this movie. But we thoroughly enjoyed it, so I'd say I'd say check it out. It'll probably be out of theaters soon. It wasn't here locally in town, so. TV shows. I did finish watching season 1 of Teachers, which, as I've been mentioning, I do have a colleague from college who starred in that show, and the good news is they were playing commercials during the last 2 episodes. They've been picked up for season 2.
Nice.
So that's really exciting. That's on TV Land, but I have seen that you can catch it online. If you've ever heard of BuzzFeed, like on Facebook and all that stuff, they did an article of like the top 10 TV shows you should be watching, and Teachers was actually number 3 on there. Now, whether that is because we also have college friends that work for BuzzFeed, I don't know. If you've ever seen the Try Guys on Facebook, actually one of the Try Guys is a college colleague of mine as well.
Really?
So, the tall one with glasses.
Oh.
So, know him as well. So, they're funny, but again, that kind of goes, along with Teachers, kind of goes a little bit across the line. So if you get easily offended, you might not want to look up the Try Guys. But they do things like, trying on female costumes. Like, that was a big thing at Halloween. And edible
tights.
Underwear.
Yeah.
They did drag for one of them. Like they try things out, but it's really funny. So anyway, that was it. Didn't watch any House of Cards. Caught up a little bit on Walking Dead. I'm still several weeks behind. I'm really not into this season. It's kind of like a lot of people should have died and they're letting their characters just miraculously live. And that's why Andy stopped watching. So I'm kind of like, I'm there too, buds. I'm there too. Anyway, reading. I did finish a book. I finished Wool by Hugh Howey. I talked about this previously because I was enjoying it so much. It is a post-apocalyptic dystopia. So there is a silo in which people live in. The air in the world is toxic, and people have lived in this silo that is 144 stories deep into the center of the earth, or into the earth, and they've lived in there for hundreds of years because the outside world is toxic and the earth is gone. And so it's kind of like the inner workings in society and politics within that silo, and finding out secrets that are kept from them in order to maintain the overall hierarchy and all this stuff, which is, does kind of line up with real world in a certain aspect. They don't draw a lot of comparisons to that, but I thought it was interesting. It was engaging. It is part of the series. I may pick up the second one. sometime soon through Audible. I think there's 3 or 5 out. I think 3. It might be just a trilogy. But, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And like I said, it was mostly in the beginning, hence the title Wool. But there are some slight knitting in the beginning and some knitting analogies. So, that catches your fancy. But that's all that I'm fit to talk about. I'm still listening and reading some other things. So.
Cool. So I have a plethora of things to cover. In
a pleather or plethora?
Plethora.
There you go. Pleather was the fake leather that I wore in high school because I had pleather pants and a pleather jacket. And ask me how I ripped those pants. Don't ask. Don't ask. Don't want to know.
So anywho, so first things first, I tend to talk about new music after I have had a good listen to it, because I want to provide a very honest and valuable feedback to it. So thing one, Macklemore and Ryan Lewis put out a new CD called This Unruly Mess, and I have listened to it pretty nonstop, and I really, really, really like this album. I would almost dare to say that I like it a little bit more than their first album, The Heist. This is my opinion. I really liked it. They kind of stayed true to the feel that they tend to produce songs on. I really can't get over Kevin. It's one of their songs. And I think partially it's because it's a duet with Leon Bridges. And I love Leon Bridges, as previously mentioned in in previous podcasts. So we really like that song, and I think it has a really deep message about how we are over-medicated and like our doctors aren't totally valuing us as genuine human beings, but rather as like throw a pill at this problem, and I really, really, really like the song because I resonate with it on a deeper level with former classmates who have died because of overdoses. Because he touches on overdoses and then meds that, doctors throw at. And so I did have a cousin that died from an overdose, and they found him. He didn't die from the overdose, I should say. He died because he was rolled into a sewage drain, and so he died by drowning in less than 2 inches of water. Drugs obviously had a huge part to play into that, so I think it's a really interesting song. I would say if you have been affected either by being overdiagnosed yourself with meds or family members, it might be hard to listen to. So I will put that out there. I really, really like the album, though. Brad Pitt's Cousin is one of my favorites. I like Light Tunnels. I would give it a listen if you are a Macklemore and Ryan Lewis fan or have kind of dabbled into some of their singles that they've released. So I give that a big 2 thumbs up. And then I also picked up today a album by Chris Stapleton. He, of course, won Country Music Association's Album of the Year and several other awards, and he also won a Grammy for the same album this Grammy season. And so I really like it. I was listening to the CD on Pandora because I created a station for Chris Stapleton, and he's got a very familiar sound. Like, he kind of sounds a little bit like Bob Seger, but utilizes traditional bluegrass and folk music kind of tones, but also keeps it light with stuff that you would kind of know already. And on that one, I really like Tennessee Whiskey and Traveler, of course, the album, or the song that the album's named after. So I really like it. It definitely reminds me of family. So I really like that album. And I really like Chris Stapleton, too, because when he won his Grammy this year, he, of course, thanked his, fellow musicians in that category. But he said something that really kind of was just like, wow, I haven't heard that in an award speech in a long time. But he said, thanks to my fans and thanks to the crew and the roadies that make this possible. So I really like that, because if you can really appreciate everyone who you work with, from top down, that really shows, to me, a sign that, you've got a big heart. So I really like that. As far as things as I'm watching Murder, She Wrote a lot, because I always have. This is not me jumping on a bandwagon of any kind. But it's a bunch of the seasons that I haven't watched. So I'm really excited about that. And books that I'm reading, it's actually been a little bit easier to read because I got new glasses this week. So I have trouble seeing far away, but I was noticing I was having a little bit trouble reading close up. And so they adjusted my prescription, and so it's been a lot easier. And but I'm reading Roald Dahl's The BFG, or The Big Friendly Giant, and I also bought 2 more of his books because I had a coupon from Barnes & Noble for Danny, Champion of the World, and Henry Sugar and 6 other fantastic stories. I think that's what it's called. But Barnes & Noble just put out an article, and obviously it's one of those things that Barnes & Noble's trying to make money too, so I recognize that. But they did this article and study where adults need to read aloud more, because it's some kind of like cognitive function that we lose from childhood to adulthood. And so they listed Roald Dahl as being one of those like fun to read out loud type things. The Series of Unfortunate Events was on there, A Wrinkle in Time, Goldfinch, Tom Sawyer. There was a bunch of different books, one for something for each individual genre that you might like. So I would check that out, especially if you mention books anywhere on Facebook, you'll get Barnes & Noble pop up. So, but yeah, that's what's been in the spotlight.
Callie looks like she's in the spotlight right now. That sun's coming in on this window and it's blowing us out. But
it's my angel-like appeal.
Yeah. Sure. Anyway. Stash enhancement. I got some on. I've been a good boy.
I bought 3 balls of Liberty Wool light, and to do the Quaker lines pattern, knit along. And this is it's all the same colorway, but it's wound differently. So this is what I got.
I was just thinking about that would go really nice with your blue winter coat, actually.
Mm-hmm.
That shawl. So.
Yeah. So I tend to pick, even if I got a different coat, I tend to pick navy. 1, because it's one of my favorite colors, but 2, because it goes with everything. Like, you don't have to worry about something clashing against navy typically. So I got those, and that's my stash enhancement for this week.
Sweet. Moving right along into a round of applause. Callie and I wanted to thank one of our viewers who gave a donation to the podcast this week. Thank you so much.
Greatly appreciated.
Tahira. We appreciate it. And, I mentioned something last week, like if you can donate, it helps with mailing of prizes and things of that nature, as well as paying for hosting online and everything like that. So if you ever do feel so inclined, again, if you go to dramaticknits.com, off to the right-hand side, there's a little donate button. But you know what? Just joining our Ravelry group and being an active part of our community is, donating enough of your time. So,
yes.
Any way you can join our community, we'd love to have you. Whether that be a few bucks here or there, or just joining the community, starting a thread.
Yep.
We encourage starting of threads in our community and getting discussions going. So, all right. We do want to talk about the March Race to the Finished Object contest. You have a few more days left through Thursday to get in anything that you finished in the month of March. It doesn't matter when it's been started. And you'll get an entry into some prize drawings. The first prize is for some Knit Picks Capra DK in the Celestial colorway, as well as a pattern from our featured designer, who is Megan Sanders.
Yep.
That being said, next week we'll start April. We'll close the March thread, open the April thread. I haven't pulled prizes, but I showed you all the donations that we got, so I'll be pulling some prizes from there, as well as announcing our new featured designer next time we record.
Which leads into, we will be recording a little bit irregularly.
for about the next 3 weeks. We're going to try to shoot for maybe Monday nights, sitting down and recording, but it's actually my fault, guys. I'm going to be really busy the next 3 weekends, and really the next couple of months it's going to be kind of, bear with us. We're going to try to record every week, but it may be on a Saturday, it may be on a Monday, it may be on a Friday night. It just depends on where it works well with our schedule. Show season is coming, and because of that, Andy and I travel. And that allows us to actually meet some of you in person, which is really great. So, but next weekend will be YarnCon, so we're going to try to shoot to record next Monday. The following weekend is our nephew's birthday party, so we'll be going back to Indiana for that. And then the following weekend after that is the fiber event in Greencastle, Indiana. That may be the one weekend we actually do record on a Sunday, but we have to play it by ear and kind of see how things work
out. And partially my schedule, it might be changing because one of my coworkers announced that her husband got approved to leave his current work at State Farm to move down to one of their hubs in Florida to work remotely. So they're going to put their house on the market in the next couple of weeks, and so that may mean
more work for you.
More work for me and not as much money. So we'll see.
Did you want to talk about our next knit-along?
Yes, I would love to. So our next knit-along is going to run a couple of months. At least 3 months, might be 4. But it's going to be for every designer that has been our featured designer since the start of the podcast. I'm almost done putting together the whole list. I've had to go back between our blogger account to this account, and it's been time consuming to link it, but we have had the awesome fortune to have so many featured designers over over 5 years. And so it's time that we do this knit along. We've talked about it for a couple of years, and so we definitely want to do justice to all of the people that have donated patterns for prizes. So rules are pretty simple. Has to be started on or after April 1, and we'll do at least 3 months, maybe 4, so we'll put an end date once we figure that out. And it has to be one of the designers that have been a featured designer for us. We'll have the list all together, and it might end up being all on our website because we can create a tab for that and add to it when we get new ones added. And it will probably be it might be a separate locked post on Ravelry on the board, so with no chatter, so then that way people can just see the one post. So
we might be able to put it up in the heading though,
yeah,
and then link to their design so that they can click right through and take a look at their designs. We'll figure it out, but we're getting blown out, which means we're gonna keep going. But yeah, no, that's gonna be. I'm really super excited about that, and we'll be able to include our new featured designer, which I will be mentioning next week. So.
Yes, so we're excited about that. You don't necessarily have to buy a new pattern if you already have, like, maybe they were a featured designer and you queued something and they were like, you know what, I might not win, X race to the finished object, and you were just like, you know what, I need that shawl pattern today. So, but we would also encourage you to look at some of the new patterns that they may have for sale, or different patterns.
And some of them have free patterns.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly acceptable as well.
Yep. So we hope you'll join us because, like we said, we have been very blessed to have the opportunity to have featured designers give us support with pattern prizes.
And I'd really like to encourage, this is kind of the teacher voice in me, but if you've won patterns from past Race to the Finished Object contests, you've already been gifted those patterns from these designers. And if you haven't knit them up, this would be a perfect opportunity to do so. I know that designers love to see new finished objects added to their patterns. And so, getting the word out there and seeing more patterns, numbers going up in their pattern pages really helps. So I'd really like to encourage you, if you've won a pattern from one of our featured designers before, maybe this is the time to knit it up, if you haven't already done so.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking forward to this because I've had patterns stacked up in my queue, and I'm like, it's gonna happen. So,
all right. let's move on to center stage. We're going to talk about all things Leading Men Fiber Arts. I'm going to be relatively quick, but if you leave us now, we will see you next week, Monday-ish, maybe, hopefully. But if not, stick around. So, Leading Men Fiber Arts, what's going on in the studio this week? Been a lot of dyeing. I've been doing a lot of specialty items, a lot of sock blanks, dyeing up more fiber. Been doing a lot of mini skein packs because I kind of waited to the last minute to do that, so I have like the next week to get those done. Andy's been dyeing a lot for kits. We're going to have polyphony kits in the shop at YarnCon, or in the booth, as well as the Wander mitten and hat kits. Those are by Megan Sanders, and the polyphony kit is by Sarah Berghart Abram. So, super excited for that. As I said, YarnCon's next week. I can't believe it's here already. And then 2 weeks after that, we'll be at the Fiber event in Greencastle. And then I'll just start mentioning it now since we're almost in April. I believe May 7th, I think, is that Saturday. We will be at the Stash Market in... Is that what it's called? I think so. Shepherd's Market in Marion, Iowa. So I think that's our one show in May thus far, I think. And then I think we added another one. But I can't announce it yet, so... Anyway, that's what's coming up. So, what then have I added to the shop? I've been doing updates all the time this week because I've had time off and I could update things in the day as well as update things in the evening. So, lots of gradients, some fiber. So let's show, I've dyed up some organic Polworth this week, and I did some semi-solids. So here is Smoky Quartz. Got those nice blush tints on top of the golden yellow. And then some Raspberry Parfait, as somebody tagged Callie on Instagram. Raspberry Fizz, as she likes to call it. So both of those on organic Polworth. Alright, Soliloquy gradient sets. These come with 5 mini skeins, 130 grams each, fingering weight of 100% superwash BFL, a total of 650 yards. We have Poison Apple, prepping for show season, but I'm like, I can't hold these back from you guys in the shop. So this got a lot of loves on Instagram today. London Fog, which is lovely shades of gray. Rubber Ducky.
I love this.
Lucia Payne, who's Pearl of the Pacific, she has a new shawl pattern called Night at the Theater, which is going to premiere at YarnCon. And one of the samples is done in a Rubber Ducky gradient, and the other one is done in Glacial and Soliloquy to show that it can be done in variegated as well.
That might not make it to y'all. I might buy that here after we get done.
The last one is Alien Attack! Exclamation point. So, it is so fun. I think our gradient page on our website, which is leadingmenfiberarts.bigcartel.com, is gorgeous. I applaud myself on the photography. I'm just like, ooh, look at that. It's just so... Take a look if you haven't. Anyway, yarn. A couple skeins of yarn. On Playbill, this is DK weight 100% superwash merino, 240 yards. It's a single ply DK. We have some... How You Doing? Just turquoise, a very light silver, gray, and black. On Spotlight, which is 80% superwash BFL, 20% nylon, 400 yards. It's a high twist, great for socks. We have some Perfection. Ooh, can you hear all the birds? On Showstopper, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 463 yards. We have Drag Queen. On Spotlight, we have a skein of Imperial. And last but not least, on Callback, which is 100% superwash merino sport weight, 328 yards, we have Poison Apple. So, that's what's been added to the shop. Who knows, I may add some more things tonight. Got a lot of things to still add to the shop, but... That's that. So, again, website is leadingmenfiberarts.bigcartel.com. Best place to follow us for when I do update items to the shop is Instagram as Leading Men Fiber Arts, or follow us on Facebook, Leading Men Fiber Arts, or join our Ravelry group as, guess what? Leading Men Fiber Arts.
What?
But as always, if you haven't joined the Dramatic Knits video podcast group on Ravelry, just search the word Dramatic Knits, no space, and you'll find us. Come on and join our community over there. We'd love to have you. And if you're watching on iTunes, feel free to leave a star rating or a written review. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you click that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up on this week's episode. We greatly appreciate it. We feel loved. Anyway. As always, by the way, you can find show notes at dramaticknits.com. So,
until next time,
we hope you
knit something
dramatic.